Good morning. Good morning to our honorary degree recipients, alumni and trustees, to our faculty and staff, to our parents, family members and friends, and most especially to our graduates. Welcome, welcome to the Johns Hopkins University Commencement for the great class of 2014. I recognize that you are a class that has put up with some extreme conditions to reach this day. The churning construction on Charles Street. The onslaught of organic food at the Charmar. The endless polar vortex and 7.5 snow days this year. It's lucky you're not graduating in August. The teeming rain at 5 o'clock this morning, just before you went to bed. And you've even tolerated my inexpert forays into Bollywood beside Hopkins' graceful masty dancers. Your perseverance is commendable, truly commendable, and I want to thank you for that and for so much more. A few years ago, each of you arrived at Hopkins with a sense of optimism and infinite possibility. We exhorted you to draw on your passions and your values and chart your course. We hope that you would use your time here to figure out who you truly are and what matters most to you. And of course, you did. Through classes in Gilman, Mudd, or Schaffer Halls, you took steps towards mastering the foundations of a major, or, in vintage Hopkins fashion, multiple majors. You took on internships, directed research projects, organized late-night study groups in Brody Learning Commons, and for some unfathomable reason took pictures of other students sleeping there. You joined sports teams and dance groups, published your data and your poetry, and made friends who may be sitting beside you and among you today, and who may still be sitting beside you 30 years from now. But in some ways, we set up a deceptive progression. Because here, freshman year usually leads to sophomore year, just as Calculus 1 usually leads to Calculus 2, Convocation leads to Commencement. We set a path before you, and though each of you made countless choices that shaped your experience, you are here today because you finished what you started. The path that began with point A ended with point B. But after today, the process of becoming you might not be so linear. I know many of you are wrestling with the paths ahead, wondering about the choices before you. If you say yes to medicine, what happens to your dream of becoming a concert pianist? If you take that corporate job, do you have to put aside your desire, your dream to combat drug-resistant TB in sub-Saharan Africa? If you accept that internship in Seattle, does that mark the end of your romantic relationship forged with that first furtive glance at D level? These are the quandaries, and the sense of infinite possibility may have just started to feel not quite so infinite. For perpetual overachievers, people who always knew the path ahead, this is a moment of great anxiety. What if the choices you make aren't the right choices? What options are you foreclosing? How do your choices today impact your grand plan? Obviously, choices are necessary, but no one choice defines a life or a career. Let me say that again because it's so important to carry with you. No one choice ever defines a life or a career. Indeed, you'll find the greatest careers and the greatest lives are often forged through a series of seemingly discordant or even contradictory decisions, driven by interests and passions, and woven thread by thread by thread into a coherent tapestry, more colorful, more bold than you could ever possibly imagine today. When I sat at my undergraduate commencement some 3 decades ago, I was conflicted in my own choices: entrepreneurship, economics, medicine. Then, perhaps surprisingly, I embarked on a career in the law, and my life seemed set, a choice finally made. But even when I became a law professor, the polls of other options, other interests did not fade. Over time, however, I found ways to indulge competing interests in ideas, policy, business, and community. And step by step, my zigzagging, my contradictory choices led inexorably to the perfect destination. Here, a place where I, a Canadian law professor, am about to confer your degrees at a great American university with no law school. Yet, I think the chair of the board may need to be revived. My story is not unique. Our renowned commencement speaker, Susan Wojcicki, is here today because 15 years ago, she chose to leave a solid job at Intel and join a startup because it was interesting. A few seats down, Edith Windsor is here because she chose, against the advice of so many, to carry her 40-year love story all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States. And she did so because it was the right and courageous thing to do. And as you know, she triumphed there magnificently. Some of you may know exactly where you want to be in 25 years and exactly how to get there. But for the remaining 99% of you, my advice is simply forget the master plan. Instead, if you embrace the challenges at each step, taking risks propelled by your core passions and interests, the choices you face will not be either-or dilemmas. There will be time for medicine and music, for public and private and community, for Seattle and sub-Saharan Africa. By following meaningful opportunities, you will arrive inevitably and perhaps improbably at a perfect place, a place imbued with meaning, fulfillment, and impact. By worrying less about the final outcome, you will find that the grand destination, the tapestry of your life, will reveal itself with time. Now, I should confess that today is one of those tapestry moments for me. My son, Drew, has spent the last few years largely avoiding me on campus. But on this day, Drew, on the last day of his undergraduate career, Joanne and I will be unavoidable. Drew, where are you? And Drew, what possessed you to put on that bow tie this morning? So Drew, not to put too fine a point on it, the only way you get to graduate today is by shaking my hand in front of 10,000 members of the Hopkins community. And that moment, which I could never have imagined when I sat at my undergraduate commencement some 33 years ago, will surely stand as one of the unexpected highlights of my life. Graduates today, I have the great honor, as both a president and a parent, of joining every family member gathered here in expressing our collective admiration, our sense of wonder, our infinite optimism about your future. We are all so very proud of you and what you've accomplished. So, with that, members of the great class of 2014, choose wisely. And if you don't worry. You'll have the chance to choose and choose again. Godspeed and congratulations.